Hello and welcome to the show. As the technology debate hots up around the GSM versus the CDMA technology, my guest today is someone who really spearheads of an entity, of a married entity that boasts both of GSM and CDMA network. As president of Alcatel Lucent South Asia business, Ravi Sharma joins us on the show today. Thank you for joining us on the show. Let me begin by asking you, results haven't been too good, down about 8% year on year constantly. You know, the question is not on results so much. The question is, when developed markets stop performing for giants like yourselves, it is emerging markets that companies begin to look at. Is there some kind of an added pressure to perform then?
See, first of all, I must thank you for inviting me. Now, the second question which you have asked is about the results. I think two things are very important to understand in today's environment. The first thing is that for operators, there is a geography and there is a technology. Under that, within limited competition, they compete. That situation does not exist for manufacturers like us who have to compete worldwide. So it might happen that in certain years or certain times, particularly in times like today, when the IT and telecom are merging together, the market in the developed world have to be moved in some different directions. And that is more moving towards the convergence. And that is why whenever a market shifts from one side to another side, there is a little bit of slowness in terms of taking off. So therefore, sometime you might see that in the developed market, the market is not growing at that speed at which it is growing in the developing market.
But my question still remains, because developed markets are not performing at the level or at the expectations at which you would perhaps expect it to perform, there is a lot of pressure on emerging markets like India, which is where growth is really coming from. So my question still remains the same, that does this kind of add on to the pressure that already exists to perform and to achieve those numbers?
I think, you know, this pressure, I will be unfair to say that this pressure only lies with developing market.
That's right.
The pressure always lies on both sides. In developed market, the pressure is how to come out with new technology to capture the new imaginative market.
That's right.
In developing market, the challenge is how to capture the market space at the most competitive prices. So I think there are two challenges, and both sectors have to face that challenge.
So both kind of challenges, but I'm going to go back to your results. You know, when this whole marriage happened, Alcatel of France and, you know, the French-US marriage, when it really happened, and then the Nokia-Siemens merger happened, a lot of analyst community thought that because of these two mergers, there will be a lot of room, there will be a bigger pie for each player to share now. And because of this weeded out competition, there will be less cannibalism, there will be more room to grow. But that clearly hasn't happened, not just for you, but even for your competition, so to say. So when Ericsson is suffering, a Nokia Siemens is suffering for growth, so are you. Why is it that, you know, you haven't been able to achieve numbers that you would have so desired to?
First question is that the marriage of this stature, that means two such big companies getting together, we were the first one.
That's right.
So to that extent, let's say that we were the first one to do that experiment or to have that conviction of marrying the two giants. Now the second point is, I think if anybody had expected this to be an easy ride, it was not to be so. Because when two companies marriage, it is not only a cultural mix between the two companies, but they also have to see that the market reacts or shifts in that way. I must say that the market reaction has been a little bit slower than what we had expected, and the same thing is happening with Nokia Siemens. And I am not surprised seeing the results which are coming for Ericsson, and the reason being that in developing market there is a tremendous pressure on the prices. So this challenge will remain. Now the fact is that when will we get it right, or anybody will get it right? I think it's a matter of time, because when two giants get together, it takes time to put the right thing in front. So there have been organizational changes at our end, and I'm sure.
Right, much that you may not want to talk at the global community. The global community is perhaps looking at you because you operate in a market where all telecom operators are looking at. I'm going to take a step back and come back to India. There was a time when Alcatel did GSM and Lucent brought the CDMA technology. The marriage of minds happened, and you really had, you know, the expertise in both technologies now. Talking about operators here in India, a Reliance, a Tata, big CDMA dudes are now looking at GSM as, you know, the next move of technology, are now looking at breaking into the GSM technology. They've applied for spectrum. We do know there's a lot of politics around it. There's a lot of hoo-ha around that bit. But how does it fare for your business, considering your existing clients who are CDMA operators are now willing to do GSM as well? That augurs well for your business, I would believe.
I think for us, first of all, we are the only people among the top 3 who provide GSM and CDMA. For us, it has been good. At the time of merger also, probably we were the only company which had one customer who was asking us to supply CDMA as well as GSM. And we were the only one who was supplying both. So for us, it did well. Now the second question which you have asked, that if people are thinking of migrating from CDMA to GSM,
or maybe not just migrating, but looking at doing both.
Yeah, if they are looking at doing both, I think we find that we are in a much better situation compared to anybody else to serve both need of customers.
But are these players beginning to talk to you about laying out their GSM networks and things like that?
Like you are saying that everybody is waiting for a spectrum. Apart from that, I see that most of these customers are speaking to us.
But is that a good sign for one technology from one technology company to move into another technology altogether? Is that a good sign for the industry at large? Because huge investments have gone into CDMA operations of both Reliance and Tata, and if they were to migrate to GSM going forward, does that augur well for CDMA as a technology? Because people kept talking about a march ahead technology and all of that.
See, look, I'm a biased party. I have both technologies. So I would say both technologies are better. For us, what matters is that faster is the development or more growth an operator makes, better it is for us. Now, if you want CDMA, we have CDMA. If you want GSM, we have GSM. So for us, it doesn't matter. Now, while going from CDMA to GSM, I think this is individual decisions which corporates have to take.
But much that you are a vested party, I will not let you go without asking this question. You saying that parties it's their final choice to make whatever technology they want to use in the future. But because you do both technologies, because you do a CDMA and a GSM, it seems that the environment in India, the technology environment in India, the way the customers are using telephones, it seems is being tilted towards GSM. Am I right or wrong?
I must say the technology environment in India is very easy. You create more capacity and customer takes it. I don't think the stage has come where people have to market it much strongly for customer to take it. So customers are there. There will be 200, 300 million more customers who will take it. Now the question is, of course, GSM to that extent is a little bit more flexible compared to CDMA when it comes to the handset. And that is what one of the challenges CDMA companies had.
But is it just the handset is why GSM scores over CDMA? Because why would then GSM operators not look at CDMA? Why is it only CDMA operators looking at GSM as a technology?
So the question is that whichever is bigger in particular country, that grows faster. If you look at US, CDMA is much more than GSM. So there it is happening reverse. But if we were to look at Indian situation, I think the flexibility and the price which have been achieved lately by GSM operators, it is one of the cause. However, CDMA operator has done a fantastic job in last couple of let's say few months to catch up that situation. But that advantage of having a free phone, that free choice of choosing phone, still lies with GSM.
So really the technology does score over there.
No. Let me come back. It is more to do with the handset. And that handset is making it possible for GSM people to allow more choice to customers.
But is it not true that the cost of laying a CDMA line is far higher than cost of laying a GSM line?
No, it is not true.
What are the statistics?
It is very difficult for me to give you the prices, but I
can
tell
you can give me the prices more easily than anybody else.
The moment you like to purchase it, I'll give you both prices.
That's not likely to happen anytime soon, sir. But I'm going to move on and talk about the spectrum. You spoke about the spectrum and you said that, it's just about capacity creation and then subscribers come on board. But spectrum still remains a crucial issue. There is no spectrum on the anvil as we talk. How difficult is it then to operate in a market like India? It's a market which is the fastest growing telecom market in the world. It's a market everybody in the world is looking at. It's a huge emerging market. It's a market players like you are willing to bet very, very big on, and yet there's a huge spectrum crunch. So does that kind of prove to be the biggest hurdle in business?
Getting a spectrum is a twofold issue. One is it's a question of expansion for existing operators. Second is an issue for the new operators. So for new operators, it is an issue. But for existing operator, it is more of a question of expansion. Whether Today, it affects any business. To my point is yes, on the positive side, because there will be new operators and the existing operators will also get more and more spectrum. So capacity creation will be much better. So it is helpful to us rather than different.
But you do agree with the fact that because of spectrum crunch, let me just come back to my whole question of spectrum crunch. Do you think right now it's not happening because there's capacity creation happening, there's enough spectrum available to a point, but do you think there could be a point in the future sometime soon when capacity crunch, when spectrum crunch will begin to hurt most telecom operators in India?
Spectrum is a scarce commodity.
Yeah.
So this part will be there anywhere, whether we do it today or tomorrow or day after. The question is how much we can accommodate within that spectrum. But let us also not forget that that kind of capacity constraint always exists in all the technologies. It had in satellite technology, and certain technologies were found to enhance it. This was found in submarine cables, and it was founded in the transmission media. It has been founded. So my point is, innovation is moving on one side, how to do a better utilization of the spectrum, but on the same at the same time, there are limitations to a spectrum, and one cannot imagine that this particular resource is available freely all the time.
Talking about India specifically, how does India really contribute to the global business for Alcatel-Lucent?
Well, I will say in this way that we have grown manyfold in last 4 or 5 years. Today, we are considered as one of the fastest growing market within Alcatel-Lucent, but we are also considered as one of the most competitive market in the world.
But would you be able to quantify the kind of revenues that come from India, and how is India placed on Alcatel-Lucent's global radar really?
See, the global radar, it is placed on 2 ways. First of all, it is placed as one of the strategic countries, because of the reason which we mentioned before, because the country is growing at a very fast pace. Right. The second reason is that our own growth in this market, and both make it possible for us to believe that India plays an important part in Alcatel-Lucent.
But you will obviously not quantify the figure for me, will you?
It's difficult, let me say that, but it is a sizable figure.
It's a sizable figure. Is it more than 10% or is it less than 10%?
My mathematics is
not
so good.
All right, you choose your mathematics not to be good. But I'm going to talk to you about the Western developed markets. There are 2 things happening in that market. A, there is not much technology upgradation happening, which is why revenues are suffering. And B, those markets have plateaued out because there's just so much tele-density that can really happen in a market, which is why those markets are not doing well. Anytime soon, the analyst community and even corporates like yourselves do not expect a lot of spending rebound to happen. How are you then looking at generating revenues in India? What is it that you will have to do in India more than what you would have done had the markets globally continued to grow?
See, let me define one particular important point to you. The growth is not limited for taking a telephone to the customer. The growth will ultimately be defined by defining the possibilities which a customer can do with telecom. And those possibilities are increasing day by day. I'm sure 10 years back, if you were taking GSM phone or any CDMA phone, your only objective was to talk. But today, you would see that you would like to do many things. You would like to do email on this, you would like to have video on this. So when we look at the developed market, we are moving towards convergence, where entertainment and video is playing a bigger and bigger part. So today, those markets are moving towards IPTV, towards IMS, towards different kind of mobile TV solutions. And other things, what possibilities it can bring to them.
That's right.
If you look at Indian market, I think we are still at growth stage where everything is developing at the same pace.
True.
And that pace is faster than any other thing.
True.
Today, whether you need voice communication, there is a demand. You need data communication, there is a demand. The moment these possibilities start existing in a much better way than it is today for video, there will be a demand. So I think Indian market, or for that matter some other markets which are developing or at a faster pace, cannot be compared with the development which is happening. But ultimately the technology is not limited by the teledensity, it is limited by the application.
I'm going to Talk about competition at this stage. There's of course competition from global majors like a Nokia, Siemens and Ericsson that we've been talking about, a Motorola for that matter. But there's also competition coming in from the Chinese players. You know, they're willing to do work at about 20 to 40% at the cost lower than most others would. How do the two competitions, A, compete with each other, and how do they compete with you?